I would like to introduce László Beke. He is a very important art critic for our region, really. He's a classic art critic, not for that he was a curator of numerous exhibitions, has written texts and published books on the art of 20th century, but he had a really contact with art and artists of this region. He was ex-director of the Research Institute of Art History of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences, professor at the Hungarian University of Fine Arts, and teaches in several Hungarian institutions. He had been teaching at the University of Lyon, Louis Lumière, and was chief curator of 19th and 20th century collection at the Hungarian National Gallery, and he was general director of Mucsárnok Kunsthalle in Budapest. Yes. Please.
Thank you very much. First of all, I should like to thank for being here, be invited, and I confess you that I have several mistakes already. I was told to speak not more than 20 minutes, and that's why I try to keep this, but maybe later we can discuss more. Another problem that I cannot show pictures. I think all my references was already shown by Piotr Piotrowski. My title became Black Hole into the White Space. I am afraid my lecture will be nothing more than the reiteration of the call and the theme of this Congress, as I completely agree with what has been formulated 6 months before. Therefore, I will attempt to sharpen the issues and identify white places, as it given in the title, unequivocally with Central Europe, and more so with its eastern part, while for now I will arbitrarily consider criticism the black hole. The radical manifestation of the Slovakian colleagues, the Slovakian AICA, is to me like an open wound. First of all, let me summarize the way which led me, a Hungarian art historian, here. It has to be clarified what it is that defines the relation of the Central Eastern European art historian to criticism in a disciplinary and interdisciplinary sense. It is also noteworthy how we relate to AICA. In the socialist countries, critics either had a degree in art history or retrained themselves from journalism. Journalism in the pre-internet era included the printed press and sometimes even photo reportage or cartoons, illustration in newspapers. Analytical art criticism was more or less unknown before the political changes in 1989. Those art historians who were dedicated to the then contemporary art, to avant-garde, neo-avant-garde, and modernism, were not critics, but supporters of artists, while art primarily meant freedom and being in the opposition. From the 60s on, in our countries, in Hungary after the crash of the Hungarian Revolution in 1956, party leadership only allowed a few art historians, critics, to become the national representatives of AICA. I think 2 or 3 persons. Ministry department heads and other functionaries. The situation softened in the 80s, so much so that such individuals were co-opted who now in retrospect can be regarded or call themselves reform communists. As for myself, in the 70s, I came across, merely by chance, an AICA event, probably 2 or 3 times, as concomitantly at the same place. I participated in different scientific conferences or symposia for instance, in Zagreb in 73 or Dresden in 74. It was rather funny that in the same time in Zagreb, I exhibited a Hungarian selection from avant-gardists at the student gallery. But I was so afraid that in the official AICA membership, it was my boss. So I decided to nominate my artist group, Grupa Anonima. It was by the chance, in that time, very famous and very interesting approach to the art. Even in Yugoslavia, there were about 5 or 6 anonymous artists and artist groups. Later on, last year, I went to the National and Modern Art, Contemporary Art Museum in Zagreb, and I could refine this conceptual material. It was very interesting with the museologues, because I insisted that I keep my originals at home, but they told that is the original. It means that took zero copies from my old exhibition material 40 years ago. Okay. Of course, after the political changes in our countries in '89 and still today, each national sections AICA has about 100, sometimes several hundred members with a democratically elected leader. As we could already understand, at the moment, altogether 4,000 AICA members we have from 72 countries. It was mentioned more than 60. I am not sure how many really is the number of the countries, AICA countries. This structure is identical with those of similar organizations, the CIHA, the RIHA, Research Institutes for Art History, ICOM, ICOMOS, and such art organizations as NET from Poland, IKG, Internationales Künstlergremium, IKT, Internationale Kunstausstellungsmachertagungen, to the Venice Biennials. The national and the international representation exist together, side by side. Organizations can have individual members sidestepping the national organization, but the tensions and the conflicts are the same between the West and East, as well as between official and non-official actors in the individual countries. Today, this conflict system has expanded into a worldwide scale, and last year, when the Nuremberg CIHA Congress coincided, and through its participants spatially also tangented the Documenta in Kassel, it was not by chance that the key figure of art historians, Hans Belting, posed the question, what is more appropriate, to talk about world art or global art? He then quoted examples of how contemporary Chinese artists resolve or sidestep this very dilemma. The science of art history, in accordance with the 19th century positivism, invoked evolutionary metaphors. The tree of Western art has its roots somewhere in the antiquity. Its stem and wider branches exemplify either the Renaissance or the Baroque, while on its fresh branches, the ever-never contemporary tendencies are budding. In the case of the famous cartoon of Ad Reinhardt, these are Picasso and Frank Stella and people like that. Horst Bredekamp demonstrated that Darwin used the branching of corals and other simple plants as organic diagrams to depict phylogenetic lines. The white places and black holes are also metaphors of natural sciences, but they have already seceded from the flora and fauna. Their roles are replaced by the theory of relativity, quantum physics, information technology, genetics, until the developing natural sciences start to meet art, especially in tendencies such as art and science and art and technology. As the science of art history and criticism in the 19th century have thought supporting positivism and science, it now does so in postmodernism, visual studies, cultural anthropology, cultural studies, Bildwissenschaft, curatorial studies, post-structuralism, deconstruction, narratology, gender and postcolonial discourses, etc., that is, in the renewing social sciences or human sciences. Later on, we considered avant-garde art in the 60s and 80s as a linguistic preparation of the politic-social turn. All this, however, underlines our suspicion these new approaches are not even altogether make up a missing real science of art. This is also a white place, or more so, a black hole. I should propose also a general artology, which could be really a philosophical science for the totalities of art. Let us not forget about the esoterical meanings of the white place and the black hole. A white place on a map used to designate an area which was unknown to be explored and possessed a peculiar area like the Bermuda Triangle. The black hole is just incomprehensible, but it is pulling you inward, is a vortex. It has a mystical attraction like the sirens do during the journey of Odysseus. The black hole is an abyss which lures us to jump into it. It's not certain that Malevich's black square on white ground was somehow related to black holes, inasmuch as it referred to space, similarly to black hole of Anish Kapoor. Still on the white place, black hole metaphors, it's obvious that their primarily special connotations are infinite. Examining the dimensions of the white place, in other languages, white spot, its limits arises. It matters whether the white spot has a sharp edge, contour, or a borderline. There have been very important conferences decided to the borders and border crossings in Bratislava a couple of years ago and to the edges in Zagreb. Typological and cartographical issues arise, mapping, framing, context. The avant-garde explores new territories while continuously crossing the borders. Postmodernism plays with the shifts of the center and periphery. As the Renaissance perspective theory and the artistic use of projective geometry are reinterpreted, we use more and more generally the term to focus, especially on the horizon as a perspective. A wide space opens, telling so, for the language games. Walter Benjamin, in his essay on painting, mentions that in German language the word malen, to paint, comes from the root mal. Mal, which means in German trace, to leave a trace, in the sense of Denkmal or Mahnmal, what is monument. But it can also mean a spot. Does a spot have a discrete border? And does a white place or a white spot? Going through the art historical, theoretical, and critical methodologies, it becomes clear that without on the one hand, metaphors, on the other hand, without language games, it is extremely hard to interpret contemporary art and historical phenomena. Within the psychological methods, there is a topological hierarchy from the subconscious and the collective unconscious to the superego. The white place metaphor as a resolution keeps it downwards, special movement in the temporal process of the construction. The black hole metaphor, even though we know that formally is a perfect space-time construction, is appealing at the first glance because of its temporal relations. The most funny thing that if you go through to the through a black hole, you come out from the other side, if any, in the past. This is to trip to the past is very important from the point of the history and from the black hole as well. We measure the light reaching the Earth from burnt or stars in light years. The black hole is an energy concentrate, just like each artwork. Every artwork condenses its own history, but on the other hand, every time someone immerses in its approach, it radiates new meanings. It expands into an infinite universe. In Goethe's Faust, and actually in every play, every painting, especially in every photo, in every work of art, for a moment, time stops. In the performances of Tibor Hajas, the Hungarian performer, the moment tangents eternity. The history is the science of collective memory. The fountain of the time is very deep. The fontaine, writes Thomas Mann, much more better than my translation. In Hungarian, if you understand, mélységes mély az idő kútja. This is the first sentence in the Brothers of Joseph. Is it not a black hole, the time, to fall into, to come nothing? From the complex time-space approach of art, the possibility of art history's graphical presentation can be deduced. But on the endpoint or endpoints of a diagram, when approaching, for instance, contemporary art, this question could also arise. Can we break away from history? Can we put the past and whose time behind? In Hungary and in the post-socialist or post-communist countries, it's a particularly crucial question whether to reveal the classified files of the Ministry of Interior, in Hungary the 3/3 department of the Ministry of Interior, and those of national security, or it is better to forget them forever. Is a new aspect of the research in our countries. Who was participating in the intelligence service in our countries, who not? The problematics of the secret here touches upon that of the taboo, which thus touched upon the white spot and the black hole, upon the opposite of the black hole, which is the white hole. The secret object hidden in the ground of soul Levitt, or Lewitt. Consequently, what meanings do these invoke? Malevich white square on white ground, black square on white ground, the monochrome painting of Ad Reinhardt, Soulage, the black paintings of Barbara Nagy with a magical black mirror of this Hungarian painter, the oil surfaces of Richard Smith and Sachi, Haraguchi, the crude black mirror of the oil pole of Zsuzsa Farkas, Hungarian artist resident in Paris, the stove holes of Joseph Beuys and Miklos Erdély, the real 3D black hole of Anish Kapoor, the black permeable and impermeable light spaces of James Turrell, and so on, and at least I would quote also the Paris-based Hungarian artist Kristóf Azbej, whose black hole experiences lead to the theory and praxis of the Fusionist Manifesto. I will go on with the language games. The fact that I am here and now is pushing taboos. Art is a black hole. Its social and political context is a white spot in which the nation, the national, the problematics of the nationality are taboos. I have already mentioned Belting's dilemma with world art and global art. Piotr Piotrowski, who is Polish, asserts that in the era of globalization, one has to regard the presence of post-communist art as an existing entity, at least in this region. At this very moment, simultaneously today, Moldavian artists and theorists hold a symposium on post-socialism somewhere in Kishinev or some other spaces. In the city of Košice, the second largest city of Slovakia, which seceded from Czechoslovakia, formed in the territory of the Austro-Hungarian monarchy in one of the 2013 cultural capitals of Europe, I think together as Hungarian art historian from Budapest with local Hungarian, Slovakian, Czech, and other Eastern European friends, as well as with friends coming here from all over the world. Around us, the place is white, full of black and white holes. The taboo problem of the nation and that of national postcolonialism has to be summarized with the concept of another post-structuralist approach with patrimonium, that is cultural heritage, which has to be complemented with European heritage and world heritage, quoted before by Piotr. All these include the artistic, natural, and intangible treasures. In Hungary, this value system plays out the following way. In accordance with symbols of state representation, primarily the tricolor national flag and the national herald. In the fundamental law, Constitution of Hungary, enacted in 2012, the law determines what can be included in the pyramid of Hungarian values. Pyramid of Hungarian values. Anything which are these values? Anything which the nation is proud of and is accepted by the committee. That is, it belongs to the excellence of the traditional Hungarian heritage, which can be both objects and individuals, such as the crown of King Saint Stephen and other regalia, or the legendary football team of Ferenc Puskás and his fellow players. And now the so-called Hungaricums. These are also into the law. These are Hungarian specialties, buildings which are regarded as monuments, like the parliament in Budapest, natural resources like Hortobágy, tradition-forming institutions such as the House for Folk Dancing, food such as the lamb stew of Karcag, or the wine of Tokaj. Everybody here in the room knows that Tokaj wine is Hungarian, but with a lot of discussions and agreements, Europe allowed both to Hungary and Slovak people to product Tokaj wine. It's a very, very important thing, as like Picasso could be entered in the canon. But also individuals, inventions, artworks, customs, etc. So basically everything can be Hungaricum. The badge of the Hungarian brand, it's also something else. Hungarian brand with big H and big B can be used in an overlap with the concept of Hungaricums, yet in a more liberal sense for primarily products of the food industry. Now, by the way, it's would be better to project, but however, is our original books. These are our beloved Hungaricums in 3 languages. You can consult them. Fantastic, beautiful photographs of library, Csikós, Guláš, Bartók Béla, the Aktelek mountain, and so on, and so on. In addition, I have some smaller pieces. This is in Hungary, but Garfield as a Csikós, and you can play with the children with like this card or mosaic or something like that to better understand Hungarian values. It's Danone yogurt with tricolor written Hungarian product. These bricks Barabás with Hungarian tricolor, 100% Hungarian product. But we have not to go to Hungary. Here in Slovakia, you have the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of Slovakia. But not that's why I mentioned this, but I found that we can go more and more forward. At the Cultural Heritage Conference in Krakow in June this year, I attempted to describe this very system, to which since then another category was added. A statute was issued about Hungarian products with big H and big P. It consists of 3 parts. 1, a Hungarian product is made 100% from Hungarian ingredients, and it's produced in Hungary. 2, a Hungarian product is made at least 50% from Hungarian ingredients, and 3, a product that is processed in Hungary, which is for the most part consists of imported ingredients. And here a footnote. The trademark, the brand of the logo for some small businesses is available for 100,000 forint, and for those over 10 million income Hungarian forint, it is 2 million forint to pay for the brand to keep Hungarian product, 2 million forint for a year. Similarly, the recently reformed national tobacco shops in Budapest, in the country, operate based on a state monopoly principle, and they are regulated and function in a unique system. Each country, each state, the post-socialist countries alike, attempt to resolve in a similar way the problems that were generated unexpectedly by post-capitalism. I find it appropriate to consider similarly artworks, Hungarian, Polish, German products as the made in the USA, made in the China trademarks were proven to be successful before. Now, you really can think about this Hungarian product system was elaborated for food and gastronomy, etc. But why not to think about a Hungarian or Slovak or US painting, if made by US canvas, US paint, with US esprit, US brushes, and to declare it a real made in USA product. This way, the artist can be considered a brand, or rather an icon, by which it can be avoided that the whole cultural field becomes once again a white spot, and the arts became a taboo. At the end, I quote Cristian Orfescu: as an artist, you are a brand. The internet changed the selling power from galleries, publishers, art dealers to the artist. It's a quotation from Art Professionals Worldwide group members on the LinkedIn internet group. The Hungarian poet Attila József remarks on the profession of the poet in the end of the 1930s. His name, if anyway, is but a trademark. We have arrived to the intellectual property, the author's right, the copyright, etc., but this is another story. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Beke, especially for your analyzing of the topic of our Congress. It was exactly how we meant it. And on the other side, your contribution to the new methodologies of the Central European region, even though a little bit through the tears I can see it between the lines there. So now is a time for your questions. There's a question, but
I mentioned Harashti in my speech. Would you like to comment a little bit about his concept of the velvet prison and whether you agree with it or not?
Listen, instead of I give you a correct explanation, I tell you an anecdote. Miklos Haraszti was a friend of, and still is a friend of mine. And I wrote the school book for art history, which has the, it's better. So I wrote the school book in Hungary for art history, which has at the moment, I think, the 26th or what edition, and the motto is the following. Professor, with this painting, the painter wanted to tell the student, and if this case, why he didn't told it. He didn't tell it. Quotation by H.M. Miklós Haraszti. But nobody asked me during 27 years long, what does that mean, HM monogram? Because if at the real first moment, I discovered that I made a quotation by Haraszti, the opposition and samizdat artist, writer, my book couldn't appear. It was the 80s. Now I can follow it step by step and so on, but there is a deep problem behind that. That Haraszti was speaking already in this system a kind of corruption in the production and in every branches of the social and economic and spiritual life in Hungary. And I think that in other form, this corruption system is survived also for today. And I think he is the same opinion. Only the forms are changed and went underground and not transparent, but we are fighting still against this kind of system, and that's why I speak always metaphorically about black holes and white spaces, because it's always to be discovered. There are more too.
Okay. Can I come first now? Okay. I will draw a conclusion after the two first lecturers. The center of art is always where it has the greatest freedom from politics, religion, nationalism, and corruption. Art flees from authoritarian and nationalist regimes, from black holes to white places.
If you want to comment it, I declare that it was a very, very beautiful declaration. I agree completely.
Well, I think the title, coming back to the previous discussion between Marek and Nazi, the title and the whole arguments published by Haraszti is also very, striking. The velvet prism, which is the contradiction between those two emotionally differently approach notions, touched something important in the so-called real existing socialism. So maybe this is also a discussion with Marek, who hesitated to call this communism. This was really real existing socialism. But just to explain this, it was a pretty simple metaphor that artists did live in the system and they were not free but somehow comfortable, right? This means, it does mean the velvet prison, to live in the system which is not free. I mean, the people are not free or used not to be free, and a little bit comfortable. But frankly speaking, I used to quote this book a couple of times, but frankly speaking, when I was for the first time in Budapest, that was 1972 when we met actually, for the first time with László Beke, I was completely surprised why afterwards reading Haraszti's book, it was not definitely the velvet prison. Comparing to Poland and Yugoslavia, that time, the beginning of the 1970s, which were somehow the velvet prisons, because artists were, quite comfortable, not so much free, but something, like in the Velvet Prison. So when I came to Hungary, artists did not have such a comfortable places to exhibit, for example, to publish their statements only on the underground. So I was quite surprised. So the Velvet Prison published by Haraszti is a little bit misunderstanding. If it refers, as he wants to Hungarian situation of the 1970s, but the metaphor describing a sort of cultural policy of real existing socialism is quite impressive and still, could be used. Thank you.
Thank you, Piotr. That is our always discussions from the 70s. What is better? What is worse? What is real? What is not real? No, I have a new metaphor. I invented a new metaphor. This is the deepness, real, endless deepness of the history. And we are art historians to digging out the relicts, but always with the danger that we would find fakes as archaeologists. A little bit more clear to speak. In Hungary, and as I understand in other countries, a big part of the historians are only interested in what is in the secret archives of the former totalitarian system police, and to understand who was the spy among them 30 years before, or to clear up clean our history or our past. Now, and one of the sharpest discussion this kind, and this year I was participated, where two people, two 80 years old people, was sitting in front of the public in a very up-to-date contemporary gallery, art gallery in Budapest. And one of the most intelligent student of mine, doctorandus, a lady, organized the show. Then one old gentleman was a spy. The other gentleman was who was observed by this man. And both started to tell stories. Both was told in that situation, I cannot do others. And in this case, a young man asked that, why was it possible and why we don't know about? And that's why I asked, why do you want to know it? And it is a question is impossible to answer, because what is better? To push with our history young people, young, intelligent, dynamic people, to bring back to the deepness of this black hole story 40 years ago, or to keep them innocent, which is also impossible. And then I think there is only one excuse and one possibility for artists and for us, work and work and work and work. But a real answer doesn't exist for the moment. But not bad. Somebody
okay,
else?
Yes. Maybe a remark or a comment by what was said by the colleague from Norway, and you, Mr. Beke, agreed completely with that. So, among other definitions of art, it was said that art is something that avoids corruption. So I can quote a case from Slovenia. We have an artist that was absolutely on the highest positions during the Ancien Regime, and all the honors, all prizes, all awards, and his works were bought by companies for enormous sums of money. And for example, 10 times as the average price of a good artwork was in galleries or on the free market. When the regime changed, after the independence of Slovenia, that same artist completely changed his position, started to depict crucifixions and things like that, and starting to tell around how he suffered under socialism and how he could not express himself. And of course it was in accordance with the new tendency, with very strong Catholic influence and so on. So this, I say, is an excellent example of corruption. If it is an artist, so the other question is if this type of behavior can be called art. But as you know, today we have enormous quantity of artists and very little art. And that reminds me of an anecdote from art history. When the young Diego Velázquez came to the court of the Spanish king, there was an old painter there active for many years, and he said to the young artist, "Yo soy el pintor de los reyes. I am the painter of the kings." And Velázquez answered to him, "Yo soy el rey de los pintores. I am the king of the painters." So this guy I was quoting, I omit the name, was always el pintor de los reyes, but he will never be el rey de los pintores. Thank you.